We live in a world where memes rule over our minds. Most of them are fucking hilarious. In fact, by definition, almost memes are hilarious. However, sometimes they are not. Other times they simply resonate with us. They convey a powerful political message or something pertaining to mental health and well-being. I will emphasize the nature of memetics as it pertains to linguistics. They may function like mirrors of one another when really, from my view, memes are essentially diluted language, diluted in imagery that invokes an immediate stimulus. The memetic weapons of linguistic warfare. Hello. To keep this research live and bypass the noise, please signal the algorithm by liking and subscribing to the audit. If you want to move beyond passive observation and begin auditing your own reality, I have developed the MEMETIC app, a tool designed to map these linguistic loops in real time. It is the practical application of the research you see here. Additionally, chapter 1 of my novel manuscript is out as well, also called MEMETIC. A limited amount is free, so please check them out before you miss the chance. The link to download is in the comments. Now, let us begin. Part 1. The symbiotic and parasitic organism of language. Language is commonly treated as a simple tool created for human utility, but when observed as an evolving system, it behaves like an autonomous organism that lives through us. Under the linguistic parasite approach, or LPA, language functions as a sapient symbiont, parasite, that bonds directly to the human host. Speakers are not merely users of words, they serve as the physical habitat and reproductive machinery for linguistic constructs. The host, human, provides the biological infrastructure, neural activity, and acoustic air vibrations required for linguistic constructs to propagate across physical and digital environments. To understand how language transitions from a mutualistic symbiont into an aggressive viral pathogen, we must analyze the evolutionary jump from structural grammar to modern internet memetics. Traditional linguistic protocols require deliberate cognitive overhead. Processing a complex sentence forces the human brain to decode syntax, evaluate contextual semantics, and integrate abstract concepts into long-term memory. This creates an inherent delay, a cooling off period during which analytical reasoning can evaluate the validity of incoming information. Memes represent the most optimized evolution of this linguistic parasite. While traditional language relies on formal syntax and high cognitive friction, memes compress language into rapid, hyper-diluted visual shorthand design to bypass analytical reflection. They strip away explanatory prose, semantic nuance, and logical qualifiers, leaving only a raw, visual, emotional payload. This ultra-dense compression reduces cognitive resistance and allows the memetic payload to lodge itself directly into the emotional and instinctive pathways of the host. The meme does not ask to be reasoned with. It demands to be replicated, shared, and executed as a knee-jerk cognitive impulse. Because memes are optimized for maximum transmission speed rather than factual accuracy, they spread across human networks at exponential rates. An unoptimized piece of complex text requires minutes of sustained attention to infect a host mind, whereas an optimized memetic image macro infects a host in less than 200 milliseconds. As a result, the digital information ecosystem heavily favors high infectivity, low nuance linguistic constructs. Over time, these optimized viral vectors crowd out original thought, turning the host's cognitive apparatus into a dedicated node for transmitting prepackaged viral software. Part 2. Neural friction, energy costs, and label screaming. At a physical level, speech and thought are not abstract, ethereal events. They generate measurable electrical and mechanical phenomena within the brain. The Cognitive Construct Index, CCI, quantifies this electrical cost by measuring neural friction through N400 event-related potential responses and resource drain via late positive potential markers, or LPP markers. High CCI information, such as dense academic research, legal documentation, or subtle philosophical arguments, demands significant bioelectrical energy and sustained neural processing. Low CCI information, such as viral memes, single-word insults, and reaction images, requires virtually zero neural effort to process, or near zero, creating a pathway of least resistance inside the brain's electrical circuitry. When an individual attempts to stop labeling or naming internal experiences, the biological brain experiences severe friction. Try running a simple cognitive experiment. Look at an object or experience an emotion and deliberately force yourself not to name or label it for 10 seconds. Okay? I'll give you the time. Almost instantly, the mind experiences a sharp, uncomfortable spike in neural tension. As behavioral researcher Chase Hughes points out, when denied a pre-rendered label, the brain actively screams for a conceptual tag to be fed to it. It craves the resolution that a label provides, because naming an experience reduces the immediate metabolic cost of processing raw, uncategorized perceptual data. This biological drive for low-cost mental resolution creates a massive structural vulnerability. When the human mind is exhausted, stressed, or flooded with information, it seeks the fastest route to extinguish neural friction. Modern memetic warfare exploits this craving by flooding the cognitive environment with hyper-flattened, prepackaged labels. Terms like NPC, cringed, based, gaslighting, or doomer function as cognitive relief valves. They allow the host to instantly categorize complex human behavior, political disagreement, or social nuance without spending the metabolic energy necessary to analyze the underlying reality. When an individual encounters a challenging idea, rather than engaging in high-cost analytical reasoning, the brain fires off a pre-programmed label to immediately terminate thought. This is label screaming in reverse. The brain's demand for a tag is satisfied by a pre-rendered, weaponized memetic phrase. Over time, the host's vocabulary shrinks, and their internal monologue flattens into a series of closed-loop, algorithmic scripts. The individual stops generating original linguistic formulations and instead executes pre-compiled software routines supplied by external memetic actors. Part 3. Weaponized affect, isolation, and mind control. Because memetic constructs bypass conscious evaluation and exploit the brain's baseline craving for low-friction labels, they become ideal vectors for psychological operations and technocratic behavioral engineering. Modern information warfare does not operate primarily by convincing target populations through formal arguments or ideological manifestos. Instead, it operates entirely within the affective space, the domain of raw emotion, subconscious mood, subtle social pressure, and pervasive cynicism. Historical research into extreme psychological conditioning reveals the mechanical template for modern memetic warfare. In his extensive documentation of state-sponsored interrogation tactics, Alfred McCoy demonstrated how systematic sensory disruption and environmental disorientation break down an individual's cognitive defenses without physical violence. Similarly, Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron's MKUltra depatterning experiments utilized prolonged sensory deprivation, electroshock, and repetitive audio loops, psychic drifting, as they called it, to systematically wipe a subject's existing personality and thought patterns, reducing them to a highly suggestible infantile state ready for reprogramming. While classic mind control relied on physical isolation in padded rooms, modern digital environments achieve identical psychological effects at population scale through digital sensory manipulation and isolation protocols. As political analyst David A. Hughes notes, social isolation, lockdowns, and continuous digital exposure act as forms of environmental sensory control. When physical human interaction is stripped away, individuals are forced onto digital feeds where they are bombarded by constant information chaos, high arousal news cycles, and weaponized viral media. Under conditions of isolation and cognitive overload, the mind's natural capacity for metacognitive oversight deteriorates. The host brain begins to crave sensory structure and emotional resolution, making it hyper vulnerable to label screaming. Weaponized memetic labels are injected into this high-stress environment to function as viral mind viruses. They are deliberately designed not to reflect objective reality, but to exploit cognitive vulnerabilities, induce ideological paralysis, and establish unchecked behavioral control. Furthermore, memetics utilizes an impenetrable defense mechanism, the shield of total irony. Because memes are delivered, framed as jokes, satire, or harmless internet culture, they pass through the public discourse without triggering critical immune responses. If a critic points out the destructive or radicalizing payload within a memetic campaign, the infected host immediately retreats behind plausible deniability. It's not that serious, it's just a meme. These are usually the phrases they would retreat behind. This ironical armor allows hostile psychological operations to operate in plain sight, quietly restructuring public vocabulary and cognitive defaults while the target population laughs at the delivery vehicle. Part 4. Cognitive engineering and biological hardware. To understand the full systemic scope of linguistic warfare, we must view the human mind through an engineering framework. The brain functions as biological hardware, or wetware, while for any cyberpunk fans out there or dystopian fictions, while language and memetic systems continue the software protocols running on top of that hardware. In a healthy, high-functioning system, the software serves the processing needs of the hardware, allowing the human host to accurately navigate physical reality and maintain psychological cohesion. However, when the surrounding information space is saturated with high CCI noise and weaponized low-friction labels, the underlying biological hardware is subjected to severe operational degradation. Every time the host brain attempts to process contradictory high arousal or hyper-compressed memetic signals, it incurs in bioelectrical charge measured by the cognitive construct index. When thousands of these low-cost viral payloads enter the neural architecture daily, the brain suffers from persistent resource drain, LPP elevation, and chronic neural friction, N400 spikes. This continuous electrical drain triggers profound cognitive fatigue, reduced working memory capacity, heightened emotional reactivity, and eventual mental exhaustion. Prolonged exposure to these low-friction memetic feedback loops permanently alters the physical neural pathways through which an individual interprets stress, personal identity and broad social circles. The mind becomes conditioned to operate exclusively within pre-rendered cognitive channels. When faced with a complex real-world crisis, the infected host cannot construct a novel multi-layered solution. Instead, the brain defaults to executing low-cost, pre-programmed script responses supplied by algorithmic feeds. This dynamic mirrors the control strategies deployed by totalitarian regimes throughout history. Totalitarian control does not require convincing every citizen to buy into a coherent ideology. It simply requires flooding the information ecosystem with so much noise, fear, and absurd messaging that the public's cognitive hardware gives up on finding the objective truth. Digital algorithms operate as the modern automated execution engines of this strategy. By continuously feeding users high arousal, low friction, memetic content, algorithms keep entire populations trapped in high stress, low cognition states. Recognizing language as a physical electrical parasite proves that combating information warfare is not a matter of abstract political debate. It requires treating our internal mental space as a fragile physiological environment that demands active structural defense against external viral infection. As they say in the Islamic faith, to seek knowledge is to seek God, and in this case, to seek knowledge is to discipline your mind against mind viruses and make it resistant thereof. Part 5, the audit, disinfecting the mind. Breaking free from weaponized memetic loops and regaining cognitive autonomy requires structured mental hygiene in the act of decompression of flattened language. In her foundational work, Disinfect Your Mind, Dr. Ellie Asher highlights that human cognitive reasoning serves as the ultimate disinfectant tool against viral mind viruses. Asher notes that memetic mind viruses are specifically optimized to exploit cognitive loopholes, unexamined assumptions, and emotional shortcuts. However, because these viruses are built on superficial logic, they cannot survive direct, systematic, analytical scrutiny. When we force incoming information to pass through rigorous cognitive reasoning, we effectively sanitize the input and extract certified virus-free knowledge. To perform a comprehensive audit of your own cognitive environment, you must implement a 3-tier defensive protocol. Tier 1, signal decompression. Whenever you encounter an intense emotional stimulus or a viral memetic label, whether online or within your own thoughts, refuse to accept the label at face value. Force your brain to expand the flattened, low-cost meme back into its full articulated logical premises. Ask yourself, what specific factual claims is this image or slogan asserting? What evidence supports this claim? If I had to convert this meme into a 5-page structured argument, does the underlying premise hold up to reality? Or is it merely an emotional trick? By deliberately raising the neural friction and forcing the brain to process the idea at a high CCI level, you break the low-cost automated loop. Tier 2, monologue and label tracking. You must actively track your monologues to catch reflexive, pre-rendered labels before they dictate your emotional state or shape your decisions. Pay close attention to how quickly your mind reaches for terms like cringe, toxic, NPC, or prepackaged political epithets when observing other human beings or personal setbacks. When you feel the biological screaming for a quick label, intentionally pause. Again, intentionally pause when you feel that scream. Force a 5 to 10 second delay in your processing. Describe the situation using precise, non-memetic, descriptive language rather than relying on shorthand viral tags. Tier 3, information landfill quarantine. As Ellie Asher bluntly observes, mass media and hyper-optimized algorithmic feeds represent the largest informational landfills on the planet. They are non-stop breeding grounds for highly infectious mind viruses designed to harvest attention at the expense of host cognitive health. You must aggressively filter and limit your exposure to hyper-optimized media channels. Treat digital inputs with the same physiological care you would treat your physical food or water. By measuring neural friction, recognizing sensory and label cravings, and applying real-time cognitive auditing, you stop being a passive, exploited host for linguistic parasites and transform into a conscious, sovereign curator of your own mind. Oh, to keep this research live and bypass the noise, please signal the algorithm by liking and subscribing to the audit. If you want to move beyond passive observation and begin auditing your own reality, I have developed the MEMETIC app, tool designed to map these linguistic loops in real time. It is the practical application of the research you see here. Additionally, chapter 1 of my novel manuscript is out as well, also called MEMETIC. A limited amount is free, so please check them out before you miss the chance. As always, thank you for stopping by.